Hey everyone, this is Elisa. I am back and we are going to go over the joints. So the joints, sorry, there's a lot more fly-ins than there it is. The joints are the articulations, the places where the bones meet another bones. And oftentimes there is movement in this area. So we're going to look a little bit about that. So it's where parts of the skeleton meet and they have different amounts of mobility. So some can move a lot and some can move a little. And they're classified in a few ways. Oops. One is by structure or how they're put together, and the other one is function or how they move in the body and what their roles are. And the study of the joints is known as arthrology. Okay, so we have a classification of the joints. So we have synarthrosis, amphiarthrosis, and diarthrosis. So for synarthrosis or synarthrotic joints, there's just like not a whole lot of movement. And we'll look at it, how their particular structure allows for that. So they're really just tethering and stabilizing. Um, Amphiarthrosis allows for just a bit of movement, some slight movement. But they're very different from the diarthrotic joints, which allow for large, broad motions like throwing a baseball or bending your knees while you run. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how they move, right? So synarthrosis, amphiarthrosis, and diarthrotic joints. So none to minimal for synarthrotic joints. And so ones that you want to think about are like the sutures. So think like the skulls, right? The plates of the skulls are fused with sutures. Um, let's see, gomphosis, or the little ligament that holds a tooth in the socket. Look at that a little more closely. And then, of course, as we are going through adolescence and then closing up through adulthood, the epiphyseal plates of the long bones. So the slight movers, or the amphiarthrotic joints, they don't move a whole lot, but they allow us to kind of maybe shift to a degree or so. They include the tibia and the fibula. And then the intervertebral disc. So you can move your back, you can kind of shift from side to side. But unless you have some incredibly extensive training, you probably can't move much further than that. And then another one, which is, relative to different time points in our lives, is the pubic symphysis, or the place uh, in the body where the two pubis bones come together and they have a little bit of a tether in the middle, and that's going to become a bit more gummy, just kind of depending on what types of hormones or if we're growing, or and then in some cases they actually do fuse. So we'll look at that later on. And then diarthrotic joints have lots of movements, and so examples is we talked about the knee, also glenohumeral joints, so like your shoulder joint, for example, are some great examples of these big movers, these diarthrotic joints. Other classifications that we need to talk about is, how they are structured. Or so continuing on, looking a little bit more at the structure of some of these joints, we're going to get into some of them in quite a bit more detail, but I just wanted to go over the differences between mainly cartilaginous and fibrous joints. So the cartilaginous joints, I want you to think of cartilage, right? So this is cartilage. And then the fibrous joints, please think of like ligaments, usually, right? Connective tissue, or dense connective tissue, you know. So synchondrosis, right? Coming together, including at that point cartilage. So these are connected specifically with hyaline type cartilage, right? So they usually are a little bit more structural. They give shape um, to non-bony structures. So these would be considered like the synarthroses, for example. Also, symphysis is when we are being connected by fibrocartilage. So you remember this would be the type of cartilage that's, say, in the intervertebral discs, for example. So there's not going to be a whole lot of movement, but they are allowing for that. And so cartilage is the binder in this case. And that is in contrast to the fibrous type joints. And so those are technically dense connective tissue, including ligaments, especially big time. So sutures are connected by short little strands of dense connective tissue. They're usually just joining up plates until they actually become joined and fused bone. Syndesmoses are connected by ligaments in a general sense. So they vary, but as long as they're, technically connected by ligaments, you might want to start looking in that category. And then there's just this one that kind of sits out by itself, and it's gomphosis. And if you could think of like the gums in your mouth, that would be how to think of it. So it's a peg in socket, and the only place you actually find it is when we talk about, say, like the mandible or the maxilla, and we have a tooth that sits in a socket that's like not very accurate tooth. There you go. Right, and it's held together by that ligament. It's held in that socket as a synarthrotic joint. Okay, so we're going to get into the synovial or the diarthroses, diarthrotic joints here in a bit because there is some complexity there. But so far, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you're out there somewhere having a great day. Bye bye.